Entrepreneurs and independent contractors, pay attention. Do not apply for that economic injury disaster loan until you watch this episode of Unlock Your Wealth Today. Your life fully invested. Welcome to Unlock Your Wealth Today, your life fully invested. I'm your purveyor of prosperity and host, Heather Wagenhals, and on this episode, I'm making success simple for entrepreneurs and independent contractors who are working to apply for the Payroll Protection Plan and the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. This is an important episode because there's some nuances you have to pay attention to so you can maximize the amount of money you can capture from both programs. Now, regardless of what you think is going on with the coronavirus, the problem is economically, everybody has been impacted, not just individuals, but you as an entrepreneur or an independent contractor, your families, your employees, everyone around the world is impacted by this. And the government is making an effort to try to take and mitigate some of those challenges because of these forced stay-at-home rules. So they have a couple of programs. One has been around for quite some time, and another one has been newly enacted. And that's what we're going to focus on, because if you apply for them without the proper strategy, you could reduce your amounts of awards. And that's critical, because you can be penalized if you approach them in the wrong way. So the existing program is the Economic Injury Disaster Loans. And this is for natural disasters, floods, fires, earthquakes, tornadoes, you name it. And they're usually dispersed by county, and it's been a program that's been around for ages. And the problem with this program right now is the overwhelming amount of demand, and it's not properly funded for the demand that it's currently experiencing, because presidential declarations of emergency also fall under this category. It's also open to individual or entrepreneurs and nonprofits as well. And it has a $2 million cap for these small business loans. It also has a grant provision on it for emergencies that happens really quick. But here's the catch, is that you want to strategize how you apply for this and the Payroll Protection Plan. So this is the new one that's been recently enacted. And the Payroll Protection Plan allows independent contractors as well as entrepreneurs and business owners to be able to apply for relief, to be able to continually employ their personnel. So not everybody floods to unemployment. Now, the nuances or the challenges that there are with regards to this program is, yes, they've appropriated $350 billion, but it's not getting into the hands of people, and there's a few reasons why. So one of the first reasons is I've been talking with different banking industry insiders all week, is that there's vagueness about how the banks go about getting reimbursed for this. There's been some lack of clarity, and because of this, it's been difficult for the banks to navigate these waters on behalf of their clients, because the banks are the ones who are funding these loans and then applying for reimbursement from the federal government. And because there's a limited amount of resources, again, $350 billion seems like a lot of money, but it is a finite amount of money. And so these banks need to get reimbursed, because they're going to be out of pocket, especially if these loans are forgiven, which means that the individual does not have to repay these loans back. Some people will qualify for that. Otherwise, it'll be a 1% loan. In any case, it's a great deal for entrepreneurs and independent contractors. But the challenge is that banks are the ones that are funding this. And they're already being pressed, because think of all of the mortgages, all of the commercial properties, everybody that's abating rent or declaring force majeure and not paying on any of their bills. So banks are already pinched enough. So they need to make sure that they're going to get reimbursed for these loans. So there's this process, and it's been vague for them. So that's part of the challenge. A local industry insider that I had a chance to chat with this week has shared with me, because he's a business bank and it's a local bank here in my home state, the challenge that they have is they process on average 30 loans a month. Okay, so that's like a loan a day, right? Well, all of a sudden, within 1 week, they have over 1,000 applications for loans. So that's what, 3% of the staff that they need to process that amount of loans. So right now, just paperwork is overwhelming these people. Now, fortunately for them, they've been able to prioritize how they handle these, and they've been able to get a 75% approval rate so far for the loans that have been applied for. Funding is different, and they have started funding now that they're getting these confirmation numbers. They have been able to begin funding this week, but it's a slow process because they're understaffed. And it's not like you can just run a want ad and get unskilled labor. I've been an underwriter for both mortgages and standard loans, and it's a process. It requires specialized training and knowledge of many areas, requires verification of documentation. And even though these loans are pretty streamlined and not a whole lot has to be documented, if you've bothered to take and apply for these already, you know that it doesn't require very much, but it's still a mountain of paperwork for these individuals to go through, not being properly staffed and not being able to ramp up either presents a bit of a problem, or at least a challenge for these banks to overcome. So they are working through it, and many of these industry insiders says that they will get through this big pile, but it's a challenge for everyone. So some tips is to apply for a bank that you regularly bank with, because even though the federal government has its basic guidelines, because of this industry overwhelm and lack of qualified individuals to process these loans, banks are putting parameters on their lending practices. So make sure that you go to your own bank that you have a relationship with first before you start applying at other banks. But here's the catch. So when you apply for the economic injury disaster loan, this loan has a $10,000 forgivable grant that you can receive, meaning you don't have to pay it back. And when you apply for this, you can receive the emergency grant and still be declined for the regular EIDL loan. But the challenge is, if you apply for this first, that amount that you receive as your award, or at least the amount that you've been approved for, whether or not you've received it, whether or not the loan's been funded, that amount is going to be deducted from your payroll protection plan. So the strategy that I want to share with you today that's critical for you to maximize the amount of benefit that you can receive from both programs is that you apply for the Payroll Protection Plan first. Apply for that one first, then apply for your economic injury disaster loan. And pay attention when you do fill out the paperwork for that, because if you don't check the box for the emergency grant, it's going to require that you process a second application. And so that grant money that you really need right now, it's going to be delayed because they're going to be busy processing first in line. And so because you didn't check that box and have them underwrite both loans at the same time, the grant and the loan itself, now you're going to have double underwriting. So make sure when you fill out the paperwork for that economic injury disaster loan that you check that box. But again, the strategy for you to apply is to apply for the Payroll Protection Plan first, and then after you've submitted that and received your approval number and are waiting for funding, then go ahead and apply for the economic injury disaster loan. They're having trouble funding those because, again, that money hasn't been appropriated, and that is a direct loan from the government. And so they're working on appropriations, but that requires congressional approval, and you know how tough it was just to get this CARE Act passed. So be patient, but apply for the Payroll Protection Plan first. If you would like a checklist on how to go through this process, just inbox me on social media with your email address, and I'd be happy to send you the checklist. And remember, when you apply for financial coaching, you get a complimentary discovery session, and you can use that to help you create a plan to navigate these murky financial waters and troubled times that we're in right now. for more great resources, compelling interviews, and insight to help you overcome your personal and professional challenges to get out of debt, achieve financial freedom, and live the life of your dreams right now, today? Well, just visit the website at unlockyourwealthtoday.com. Remember to inbox me on social media if you would like that entrepreneur's checklist to help navigate the application process for these two government programs. Just inbox me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Unlock Your Wealth. And if you're on Facebook, well, just find me at Unlock Your Wealth TV. I'm Heather Wagenhals, and for the maestro of Moolah, Michael Terry, now go out and unlock your wealth today.
UnlockYourWealthToday.com is produced by Heather Wagenhals and the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation. UnlockYourWealthToday.com and its affiliates are copyrighted 2018 with all rights reserved. For more information on the Keys to Riches Financial Wellness Series, please visit our website at www.unlockyourwealthtoday.com.